to the next topic of an analytical cross-sectional study on the relationship of perceived social connectedness and burnout symptoms in medical students from a private tertiary institution in Metro Manila, enrolled in an online curricula for the academic year of 2020 to 2021, presented by Mr. Vashwin Amarnani from the University of East Brahman Magsaysay Memorial Medical Center Incorporated.
The COVID-19 pandemic has forced the restructuring and reevaluation of many of our systems, one of which is the educational system, leading to the onset of the online curriculum. Good afternoon to our esteemed judges, participants, and the organizers of IMRC 2021. I'm Vashwin Amarnani, one of the good-looking students you see on the left side of the picture. In this picture, we see the traditional face-to-face learning where we make use of laboratories and cadavers. On the right, we see the medical students making the most of the online curriculum by meeting with respected consultants. By looking at both these pictures, we can see one thing very clearly. On the left, they're all together physically, and on the right, they're all together virtually. Which makes us wonder, does this make a difference? Could this lead to a reduced feeling of social connectedness? And could this reduced feeling of social connectedness affect something like the prevalence of burnout among these medical students? And that's exactly what the researchers set out to find out. Using an analytical cross-sectional study design among medical students from a private tertiary institution in Metro Manila enrolled in an online curriculum for the academic year 2020 to 2021. The significance of this study is especially for the medical institution being studied, from the medical students to the administration. But we also believe that this research can be further built upon by the scientific community. We aim to determine the relationship between perceived social connectedness and the symptoms suggestive of burnout among medical students enrolled in the online curriculum, where we hypothesized that reduced feelings of social connectedness would be associated with symptoms suggestive of burnout. For our methodology, we first began our survey, which contained an informed consent, social demographic data survey, the social connectedness scale revised, and the Copenhagen Burnout Inventory. Both previously mentioned inventories have been previously validated for medical students. For data analysis, we found for the survey, we hope to get contact with our respondents being medical students enrolled in the tertiary institution undergoing online curriculum that are living with their families, and we excluded those that have been previously diagnosed with mood or psychotic disorders, as well as those who had symptoms of hyperthyroidism. For data analysis, we got the prevalence of reduced social connectedness as well as burnout, and we use a chi-square statistical analysis to get the prevalence rate ratio at a 95% confidence interval. Once the data was analyzed, those who had been seen to have burnout symptoms were given a debriefing by a mental health professional as well as an evaluation. For our results, we first have our demographic profile of our 119 participants, where a majority were aged between 91 to 94, Roman Catholics, and females. We also have them living in the National Capital Region of the Philippines with family and relatives. And we have a majority have access to more than 2 devices and have their own personal study spaces. We found that reduced social connectedness was seen in 86 out of our 119 respondents, or 72.3%, with burnout being seen among 102 out of 119 respondents, or 85.7%. When put together in the chi-square statistical analysis at the 95% confidence interval, we can see that reduced social connectedness was related to burnout at a 1.247 prevalence rate ratio. So what do these numbers mean? In our study, 72.3% experienced reduced social connectedness. According to our related literature, there are 4 common denominators that may account for this. Firstly, we have the COVID-19 pandemic that has reduced social connectedness as a whole. Qualitative study on online learning among medical students accounted for not being together in a physical space as being one of the main factors of reducing social connectedness among medical students. And unstable internet services and power interruptions is something that should be greatly taken account in the online learning setup. As a protective factor, we have modern technology, which has given us, for example, me the opportunity to present this presentation to you despite being 2,000 kilometers away. And then we have our burnout, where 85.7% of the student population had burnout symptoms. That's more than 4 of every 5 students. According to a meta-analysis on burnout in medical students, the range would usually be from 7 to 75.2%, making our study's findings unprecedented. This is also contradictory to other previous studies showing that online learning has shown a drop in burnout prevalence among non-clinical years in med school. When put together, we see that students with feelings of reduced social connectedness are 1.247 times more likely to be experiencing symptoms of burnout. It has been previously seen that social connectedness is a protective factor in reducing the prevalence of burnout. But one study sees no association. We believe that this disparity between the studies is due to the difference in inventories used as well as the differences in analyzing their data. We also see that social support has frequently been seen to have a buffering effect against stress. This also allows for the cultivation of positive coping mechanisms against stress. According to the study, we also see that that social connectedness or the support from students between school and the teachers yield the strongest relationship with student burnout. And the same study has seen that inadequate social support has been felt by those who actually have been experiencing reduced academic achievement. So together, we see that when combating burnout, we need to assess not only the students' feelings of inefficacy, but also their perceived amount of social support. In conclusion, amid the COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of a purely online curriculum, medical students with reduced social connectedness had an increased risk of experiencing symptoms of burnout, and this was statistically significant. For our limitations and recommendations, we think that we can further improve generalizability by including students from other medical colleges in the studies population. We also believe that further biases such as recall bias may be avoided. We can also make use of a cohort study, which may further account for causation for the already seen association in this study. And we also believe that a qualitative research to further compound on and build upon our findings could be very significant. These are references. Thank you all very much for listening.
Yes, can I start? It is a very interesting work. Could you please explain more about the validity and reliability issue of the instruments you used?
Okay, so for the validity and reliability of both the instruments, they're both previously validated by many previous studies. So we made sure to make those that have also been used among medical students prior to our study. So and we also pre-tested the study, though during the pre-test we only made use of cronbachs for internal reliability. So it was seen to be internally reliable in the pre-test, and it is also previously validated by several studies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yes, please. I have a quick question about your statistical analysis. Please first correct me if I'm wrong. So from the questionnaire, both aspects, the result you got, it can be like a continuous data, right?
Yeah.
But you categorize into like a yes, no, right? My question is, why don't you try, or have you ever tried, instead of using the PRR, use like a linear regression to see the contribution of this factor to the burnout?
It's actually something we looked into, but by the time we realized how important it would be to look into those compounding factors, it was a little late in our collection of data. But we think that could be that's actually something we should add to our recommendation of our study.
Yeah, because I really want to know how influential this factor is to the burnout.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no more questions, so let's move on to the next topic.